Welcome back to the science behind. Today, we're diving back into the aquarium hobby into something that's literally a little murkier. This episode is all about blackwater tanks, what they are, how they work, and why so many aquarists are drawn to their rich tea-colored aesthetic. But before we begin, I want to say a quick thank you to TheBetCookie23 for suggesting this topic. Now, if you've ever seen a tank that looks like it's filled with brewed tea or wondered why anyone would do that on purpose, this episode's for you. We're going to explore the natural ecosystems that inspire these setups, the science behind tannins and water chemistry, and clear up some common myths along the way. As always, this isn't about following trends or taking sides. This series is about looking at the facts and giving you the knowledge you need to make informed decisions for your own setup. So let's get into it. So what actually is a blackwater tank? At first glance, it's exactly what it sounds like. The water is dark, tea-stained, maybe even murky looking to some, but there's more to it than just a cool aesthetic. In the aquarium hobby, when we say blackwater, we usually mean a tank where the water has been naturally stained by organic materials, mostly tannins. That could come from driftwood, seed pods, leaves, bark, anything botanical that's breaking down slowly in the water. It turns the water brownish, sometimes even orange or a dark amber color, depending on the concentration. But here's the thing, this look isn't just a stylish choice. It's inspired by real ecosystems. Rivers, peat swamps in nature actually have this. And in those environments, fish and invertebrates have adapted over thousands of years to thrive in these tannin-rich waters. So, when we build blackwater tanks, we're not just creating something pretty, we're actually mimicking nature, just in the nature aquarium hobby. And for a lot of species, we're giving them something that actually feels more like home. But not all blackwater tanks are the same, and not all blackwater tanks are actually naturalistic. Some hobbyists focus purely on the visual side, others go all in on replicating the chemistry, biology, and even seasonal changes that true blackwater ecosystems have, which is what we'll look at next. So let's break it down. What actually makes blackwater black? The color comes primarily from tannins, which are natural compounds released by decaying plant matter like leaves, bark, and driftwood. As they leach into the water, they create that warm, amber brown tint that we associate with blackwater rivers. But it's not just about the look. These tannins actually change the chemistry of the water too. They can lower the pH level, they can reduce carbonate hardness, and create an environment that's soft, acidic, and full of dissolved organic compounds. That's why blackwater habitats in the wild, like parts of the Amazon or Southeast Asia, are usually low in minerals and have very little buffering capacity. Now, these conditions aren't just aesthetic, they're biologically significant. Many species of fish and invertebrates have evolved in these environments, and the water chemistry plays a big role in their behavior, breeding, and even their coloration. For example, blackwater is believed to reduce stress in species like tetras, rasboras, gouramis, and certain dwarf cichlids, and can even enhance their natural colors. And one more thing, blackwater isn't dirty or unsafe. In fact, it's often cleaner in some respects. The humic substances and tannins have a mild antimicrobial properties, which can support fish health and water clarity, even if it looks murky to us. So it's not actually just colored water, it's a chemically distinct ecosystem, and replicating it well actually takes more than just dropping in a tea bag. If you've ever seen a blackwater aquarium and wondered where this idea comes from, it's not just a stylistic choice, but it's a reflection of real ecosystems found all over the world. Blackwater habitats exist naturally, primarily in tropical regions and most famously in South America, but also in the Southeast Asia and parts of Africa as well. One of the most iconic examples is the Rio Negro in the Amazon basin. This river system stretches for over 2,000 kilometers and is one of the largest blackwater rivers in the world. It gets its tea-like color from decaying organic matter, so things like leaves, bark and seed pods that fall into the slow-moving water and release tannins over time. The water in these regions is soft, acidic and actually incredibly low in nutrients and minerals. It's also low in light penetration thanks to the natural tint, but despite what might seem like poor conditions by aquarium standards, it actually supports an amazing variety of life. You'll find fish like cardinal tetras, apistogrammas, hatchetfish, discus and corydoras, all adapted to thrive in these low light, low mineral environments. Some even rely on the chemical makeup of the water for breeding, and because the water is naturally lower in pathogens, some of these fish use leaf litter and root tangles for shelter and spawning grounds. In the Southeast Asia, similar blackwater conditions can be found in peat swamps and flooded forest zones. These are homes to bettas, rasboras and gouramis, which are fish that have evolved to breathe atmospheric air and survive in the water that's dark, still and full of decomposing plant matter. In all of these environments, the biological balance is completely different from what most aquarists are used to. There's less flow, there's more detritus and there's more microorganisms, and plants are much less dominant if they're even present at all. Instead of lush greenery, blackwater habitats often look like a tangled forest floor submerged in dark tea. Root systems, branches, seed pods and leaves form the backbone of the environment. To some it can look messy, but it's incredibly rich in biology, and it's a perfect home for the species that has evolved to live with it. So when you build a blackwater tank, you're not just adding tannins, you're creating a microcosm of the wild, one that mimics the physical, chemical and visual elements of these incredible ecosystems. That's what gives blackwater tanks their unique appeal. Let's say you're sold on the idea. How do you actually make a blackwater aquarium? The classic approach is to add botanicals. Things like Indian almond leaves, catappa leaves, oak leaves, seed pods and driftwood. Especially types like Malaysian or Mopani driftwood all naturally release tannins into the water as they break down. That's what gives the water its iconic tea-stained color, along with all the biological benefits we mentioned earlier. Now, if you want a shortcut or a bit more control, there are also commercial blackwater extracts. These don't add as much organic matter, so you won't get the same microfauna and biofilm growth, but they're a cleaner and more predictable way to tint your water. That leads to another important point, what to expect early on. Once you start adding botanicals, don't be surprised if your tanks gets a little cloudy at first. You will also likely see biofilm forming on the leaves and the wood, and that's totally normal and actually a good sign of healthy microbial activity. Most fish love grazing on it and it will settle down on its own after a few weeks. That said, this isn't a set and forge type of system. You'll want to monitor your parameters closely, especially pH, hardness and organic load. In soft, low buffer environments, pH can drop fast if you're not careful, and as for filtration, both sponge filters and canister filters works great in this. But sponge filters are often preferred in blackwater setups because they're gentler and they preserve more of the microfauna and won't strip out tannins like chemical media in a canister might. And if you do run a canister, skip the carbon and focus on biological filtration instead. Now, should you try it? Blackwater aquariums are amazing, but they're not for everyone. If you're keeping fish that naturally come from blackwater biotopes like bettas, apistogrammas, cardinal tetras, rasboras, corydoras or pencilfish, it can drastically improve their behavior. But if you have hard tap water or keep fish that require alkaline conditions like guppies, mollies or snails, you're going to fight an uphill battle. The same goes for high light demanding plants. They will struggle in soft, low nutrient environments. So in the end, the blackwater is actually a tool and not a rule. if it suits your livestock and you enjoy the look, it can create an incredibly stable and naturalistic aquarium. Just be sure to do your research on your fish and plants, move slowly and monitor the parameters in the setup phase. Alright, so that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Blackwater tanks. Hopefully this episode has cleared up some of the mystery and maybe even inspired you to explore the darker side of aquascaping, in a good way of course. Whether you're after the visual drama, the natural biotope, or just something new to try, Blackwater setups can offer something really special. But like anything else in the hobby, it's all about understanding the different conditions, the livestock, and what works in your own setup. If you've kept Blackwater tanks yourself, or if you're thinking about starting one, let me know your thoughts on the project and your experiences in the comments. And finally, this episode of The Science Behind was suggested by a viewer, so if you've got any idea for a future episode, let me know. I'm always on the lookout for different topics to explore together. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.